Hey guys, alrighty. So I haven't been in video in a little while. Been super busy. We're out of state for a competition and a couple other things and whatnot. But hey, alrighty. So yesterday, and I had done a written TA on this, and I was so bearish going into today. I felt like this doji rejection we had yesterday was really nice setup for a retrace. Honestly, it was very similar to this day right here. I honestly am kind of looking at a pretty similar February 12th 13th and 14th repeat right now. So what I mean by that, and the candle structure is a little different here on SPY, but we go to ES, it'll look similar. But you can see we have the doji rejection, then we had the gap down, a little bit more dramatic gap down. This was, I think this was CPI day or something. There was at 8:30 that day, there was a reaction. I think it was CPI. But you can see we dropped and then we kind of held down all day and then boom, last 30 minutes of the day, markets got bought up. Same thing today. We squeezed hard the last like little 15 minutes of the day there. So what I'm kind of looking at here is, we had a new supply, 512.28. We did close below 508 demand right here that was put in on the 29th. Now remember, that was kind of a goofy close we had because we actually had a supply lower that we took out today down around 505. And the thing about that was weird is that we put a supply in and then we closed over that supply and put a new demand higher than the previous supply, and that is not something you generally see. So anyways, we ended up coming down. We are under daily 8 EMA, but you can see usually once we get below this 8 EMA, boom, next day, pop. Oh, this is really the only time that the next day we did not pop, and it was kind of a delayed reaction. And then you can see, boom, 21st and 22nd, major pop to the upside here. So I am looking for a potential gap up to the upside. One thing to keep in mind for tomorrow is JPOW is speaking. So he's testifying. This is something they do every single year. Basically, he testifies in front of Congress for 2 days straight. Usually starts at 10 a.m., ends about 1 to 2 p.m. Not a whole lot really comes from it. It's honestly a real snooze fest that I've watched it the last, I think, 3 years. And I think I'm going to not even watch it this year just because there's nothing good that comes from it. It's just boring I'm completely honest, it's just boring. So anyways, looking at the data, what I think is the most interesting is that over the last 3 years, the average move is 1.3% plus or minus. So we had 2 times, 2021, 2023, we dropped 1.3% over 2 days. 2022, we popped 1.33% over 2 days. Now, also something else I'm kind of watching is we have a little bit of an every other going here. So 2021, we had a red open on the first day and we closed down and we dropped over 2 days. 2022, we had a green open. We rallied over 2 days and obviously closed green. 2023 was a little bit more of a kind of a flattish kind of reaction, but we barely opened red in 2023. We closed pretty strong red, though. We had almost a 1.5% drop intraday. And obviously, over 2 days, we dropped. So if trend plays out, we are actually looking at a pretty good odds of a pop to the upside, gap up overnight, and a green day tomorrow. Something that I see that I think is the biggest trend is whatever direction we open, we are likely to close either higher than that. If we open green, we're very likely to close higher. If we're red, we're very likely to close lower. So I think that's the most important thing to watch, but I am fairly bullish overnight. So going over to ES, this kind of will show you why I'm even more bullish. You can see so many times we've had the same, look at this. We'll zoom out here. Every single time. How many times has it been now? 7? Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different times that we've seen the same exact pattern play out and we bounce to the upside. I think tomorrow, again, will be a bounce to the upside. What I'm looking at here, and I was talking about that February 12th to the 14th. So look at this right here. So the 12th, we had a massive doji, kind of double top there. Same thing. We had a massive double top. We didn't quite get the double top, but we did get the doji. You can see we opened and pretty much instantly dropped. And then boom, what happened? End of day that day, and I'm not going to go over the 15-minute time frame, but end of day here, you can see they bought it back up. Now let's look at today. Boom, we dropped to the downside. We came close to the 20 EMA support. And then what happened? Boom, they bought it back to the upside by end of day. So on that day, you can see we had a little bit of downside and then we recovered and then boom, we pushed again. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the double bottom. There is potential. You can see here, the 21st I really think was an oddity. I think that was a fluke because if you look at all these other times, they are instant double bottoms to the upside. There is no drop lower. You can see here, every single one of these, boom, push, push, push. Even back here, push to the upside. You know, there was just no bigger retrace. I really think this 21st, I can't remember what happened. There was something, and I actually, you know what that was? That was the day before NVIDIA earnings, and I think the market was just a little bit more on hand. But that day too, if you remember, we did dump aggressively to the downside, and then the last end of the day, we pretty much squeezed from lower day to higher day, and then you can see, boom, the next day was a massive breakout. I think this was an oddity just because of NVIDIA, but again, I'm looking for the double bottom, and I'm looking for a move, you know, back to the upside. We could get a pretty big green day. So, you know, if we double bottom here, you know, 1% day isn't out of, you know, that gets us back to right where we should be at here. So, you know, if we get our historical 1.3% rally, that puts us right about, boom, right about there. So 51.58, new all-time high by the end of the week here. So I like the upside for sure. Now, going over to the Qs. Qs, same thing. Qs are actually super bearish going into tonight. Again, I was looking for the breakdown under 435.13, which is demand from back here. And we almost were going to close under the 20 EMA until, of course, they bought it back up. Same thing, you can see these bounces off the 20 EMA here. I'm looking for the pop to the upside here. We filled a little bit more of our gap right here, but we still have that pretty large gap to watch right here too. Now, same thing here on NQ, and I really probably should highlight it to make it a little easier to see here. But you can see every time we come down to this 20 EMA, you know, and again, this was kind of the fluke right here, but every single time we come down to it, you know, we get these big, huge bounces to the upside. So again, same thing. I'm expecting a daily double bottom, and we're going to push back up probably into the 18,200 area here. So, you know, we also held 17,854, this demand that was formed back on the 28th. And you can see every single time we've kind of come down, we put these new demands in, and then boom, we push up. So if we turn this into a new support, a demand right here, and then we close over this, we could be looking at that breakout for sure. Now, one thing I want to point out at VIX, and we're just going to zoom out just a little bit here so you guys can see it here, that I find interesting still, is the fact that, you know, since December 12th, we have not made a lower low. We have just been steadily rising, putting new demands in, building this massive 12 to 13.1 support area. However, as you can see, all the time we are getting rejected up here. So same thing, it kind of, you know, correlates. And this was, let me see, the 12th, where's February 12th? Yep. So February 12th, you know, that was a dramatic candle, but you can see it's nearly the same exact structure as today, you know, and it's kind of almost the same exact setup. We had the bottom right here. We had a gap up move, boom, big breakout in the VIX. And then what happened next day? Slam to the downside. So again, you know, it looks really, really good for a rejection here. And truly, until we see a closure over 15.55 and 15.84, I have a hard time being bearish long term here. I still think, I mean, this is still a bull market. You got to remember that. This is still a bull market. Going over to the dollar here, you know, some really weird kind of movement here. You can see these bull flags basically. You know, we're kind of almost negating the next bull flag. You know, we've lost this support area, and you can see we are just sitting right on top of all of the EMA. So you got this is the, right here's the 100, you got the 50, and then the red is the 200. We are sitting right on top of that. This 103.777 demand area. Basically, since the 20th, we have been riding and just chopping in the same, you know, 104.144 to 103.777 area. If we start breaking down to 103, I think that gets us our next big pop to the upside. Tomorrow with JPOW speaking, very likely we are going to see a big move on not only the 10-year, but a big move on the dollar. So, also I thought it was interesting today that the 10-year and the dollar fell with the markets. So you can see here, we put this really nice 4.303 to 4.33 triple supply area in. We are slowly breaking through our support. So we broke under 4.18, our critical demand right here. So lowest close we've had on the 10-year since back here on the 12th. Now, what I find is interesting here is that we did bounce off the 200 EMA. If we lose 4.111, likely we are heading back to this 3.881% area. So tomorrow with JPOW speaking, it's going to be interesting to hear what he has to say. So remember, this is pretty much the last time we'll get to hear him speak before FOMC. Now, the biggest thing I want to watch for FOMC is the dot plot. I think that's the biggest potential bear catalyst that we're going to have. One thing that I think about for tomorrow, in all honesty, is that what is he going to say to surprise the market? Knowing JPOW, not a whole lot of anything. He's been saying the same stuff since December. Inflation is a little too high. We would like to have a little more confidence in CPI coming down before blah, 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 blah. It's the same speech over and over and over. We need to see basically JPOW come out and say, we are going to cut or we're not going to cut. And that's really the biggest catalyst we're going to have. I do think Congress will likely press him on that, knowing them and knowing how these last 2 to 3 years of testifying has gone. They like to press him on the federal funds rate. But in all reality, he's probably going to just give him a whole lot of nothing. So, I more or less think that it's going to be a bullish reaction tomorrow. I think the algos are going to see there's nothing to surprise us, nothing that we haven't heard. He's not going to say we're not going to cut rates. And honestly, him saying that we might cut rates more or whatever, which they're probably going to press him to say, is probably going to be taken very bullishly. One other thing I wanted to point out today before we go was Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been on an absolute tear. This is a weekly time frame here. You can see massive doji forming here. We did officially hit a new all-time high on Bitcoin, 69.210. And as soon as that level hit, man, did it reject. We had almost a 10% drop in like 5 minutes. Actually, this would be fun to go look over. Let's look at the 15-minute time frame here. So you can see here, where is it at? So there, boom, there it is right there. There's our all-time highs right here. And you can see as soon as we touch this all-time high right there, it was instant. In 1 hour, we had dropped 7%. And within 5 hours, it was down at 1.15%. Crazy rejection. So, certainly interesting to keep an eye on crypto going forward here to kind of see what this market's going to bring us. But I hope you guys had a good day trading today, and I will see you guys tomorrow.